morning. You know how we do it. There's a lot to talk about. It's always a pleasure when you join us, when we get to talk about things affecting our beloved country, Nigeria. I'm Ria Abdul, and welcome to our show.
Rise and shine in Nigeria. It is time for the Wednesday edition of the TVC Breakfast Show. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're choosing to spend your morning here with us on the TVC Breakfast Show. We're very grateful for that. You're very welcome. We're broadcasting live from our studios in Echo Atlantic, Lagos. I'm Olamide Odekunle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on the Wednesday edition. We're here again to give you all the information you deserve to know. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, beautiful lady and gentlemen. Good morning. You know, anytime I'm on the table, I want to just shout good morning Nigeria and just be very, very excited, and then you think about, what's really happening in our country as well, and then you just get back into a sober mood. But there's a lot to talk about on the show. I'm sure we're all ready for the conversation.
Absolutely.
Toma, Ibrahim, Olamide, let's let Nigeria know what's happening. All right, a very good morning once again, Nigeria. Thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. Now, I'll give you a rundown of what we're talking about on the show this morning. You know how we do it. At some time, Ibrahim will bring us all the headlines that have made it to the newspaper. We get to dissect it right here on the show. Later on, we'll be talking about the feud between ADC, Atiku Babache. We will give you more insights on that. A guest will join us and we get to dissect it right here on the show. Later on, when we take you to Abuja, we'll be talking about politics ahead of 2027 elections, things that should be expected. Abuja will handle that for us. And then we come back to Lagos, where the beautiful Olamide will take us through everything happening in the world of social media and more. So please, I implore you to grab that cup of coffee or tea and let's have a very, very fantastic show. Now, we'll start with the story. The House of Representatives wants the government to urgently provide adequate funding for the Nigeria Center for Disease Control to strengthen preparedness and response capacity against Ebola and other epidemic-prone diseases. Now, the resolution is sequel to a motion of urgent national importance sponsored by Abia State member Amobi Oga. The House warned that Ebola outbreak reported in parts of Democratic Republic of Congo pose a serious regional threat as a result of porous borders and weak cross-border surveillance system.
This situation is compounded by a marked reduction in external donor support, which previously complemented government financing for outbreak preparedness and response activities.
All right, so this is the conversation we're going to be talking about this morning. Remember, during the week, we had a guest where we were speaking about, the same, we'll talk about the Ebola outbreak, and we spoke about the importance of just making sure that in Nigeria, we're very well prepared for it. When we talk about Ebola, we talk about 2014, where everybody praised Nigeria, for the way we handled, that situation. Because this is a situation that if we do not handle properly, can just, a lot of people will lose their lives. And we hope that the way we prepared the last time, we still have the capacity, the capability to still, prepare like that this time.
Yeah, you see, the same thing happening 2 different times might not bring out the same results. My quarrel with this story is, so CDC has not been funded purposely for Ebola protection. This is something that when the news broke that the thing was in Congo, we would have funded CDC right there and get prepared. We don't need to wait for one Nigerian to contact the disease before we start running helter-skelter or allow it to a point where the National Assembly has to step in. Now we are having so many diseases everywhere. There's cholera in Borno. We heard of Lassa fever, and God knows how many other diseases are ravaging Nigeria. So CDC needs to be funded. I mean, this is non-negotiable. This is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Olamide, I mean, when we talk about diseases, they are not scared of borders. They will pass any border at any time. And we know that people must travel as well. So even if you say you want to restrict travel in one way or the other, people will move from one place to another. And we see this happen a whole lot. At the airport, when somebody's traveling from somewhere, contacted the disease, he's not checked properly, he's allowed to enter Nigeria, he spreads it. And that's how, everyone will eventually get it if we do not really take care of ourselves. But why are we now speaking about the fact that we need to put money where we are supposed to put money? Now, that's my question.
Absolutely. It's important to note that health security is national security. The two matters cannot be divided, or one is not more important than the other. Health security is national security. Things like public health emergencies should not have to wait for budget approvals.
Absolutely.
When we look at our first line of defense, should a disease enter this country, it's the National Center for Disease Control. So it is very, very important that it is funded. This is not a question like, you said something before the show started. Why are the reps the House of Reps members having to bring this up? It should be a no-brainer. We cannot wait for something to threaten our line of defense before emergency systems are activated. When we even look at Nigeria now as it stands, compared to when it was when the first Ebola outbreak happened, our population has increased. Yeah. Our population has increased. We're not only fighting against Ebola, there are many other diseases, meningitis, all sorts of outbreaks, So it's important that our first line of defense is not compromised. It's very interesting, though, to see House of Reps members take this very seriously. Diseases are something that you cannot be bipartisan about. It's not about your political party or personal interest. If Ebola touches one, it touches everybody. It's good to see that they're pushing for this. And it's time for Nigeria to reactivate that muscle that helped us be so successful in the first outbreak of Ebola.
If you ask me, I'll say they have no choice, because we know that no matter the amount of money that you have, when sickness hits you, then you know that money doesn't mean anything. So at this point, they have no choice. But Ibrahim, I'm very worried that oftentimes we are very, very reactive rather than being proactive. Because why did we get to this stage where the House of Reps are now saying that let us fund, this particular institution? Because if it's not funded, how do we expect them to fight, if we have an outbreak in Nigeria? God forbid, we do not want that. But just in case something like that happens. Also, Ibrahim, I want you to help me touch on the fact that are we making sure that the people entering Nigeria, either through the borders, either through the airports, we are checking their health properly? You mentioned something one of the days on the show, which is very important. Oftentimes at the airport, they will not check you fully. Once you give them go, they'll let you go. And it's also a very big problem. Yes,
but then come to think of it, they've actually increased the surveillance, at the airports, different borders and all the likes, because people coming in, because we know how dangerous it is if anyone contracts Ebola. Ebola has 50% mortality rate as against COVID-19, which is just about 2%. So meaning that it is very, very is deadlier than that of COVID-19. And we know that NCDC said that Nigeria, of course, since 2014, we've been upgrading, upscaling our health facilities, but we are not 100% ready. They said they only scored Nigeria 59%. So the NCDC as an institution is an institution that we should not joke with when it comes to health matters. So one thing is it should not be left to the federal government alone. The state government, the subnationals, the local government should ensure that all the primary healthcare centers, everyone is ready. Beyond what the government is doing, or whether the subnationals or the local, what we need to do as our own persons, we have to be our frontline first, responders by being careful who you shake. Do not touch anyone who is already sweaty. Right? You can just say, hi, how you doing? Especially for this time to just go. It doesn't mean that you don't like the other person. Yeah, hi, Ria. But that doesn't mean we should be hostile, to one another. Yeah. So for everything we need to do, non-pharmaceutical measures are very, very important. Wash your hands all the time when you use the toilet. Make sure you do not, you don't hug people randomly, and you should also be mindful of where you keep your food, because rats don't fly airplanes where you can screen them. They come through the borders, land borders, and we also know that this insecurity of the thing that we are fighting, they are also coming through the land borders. So if they are, capturing their victims, we don't know what they carry. So whenever we are able to retrieve or save all the captors, we should also try to screen them, as much as we are also working on their mental health as well. Exactly. So, it's a holistic thing. So we should be 100, in fact, 2,000% ready.
I know, I agree with you. And for me, it's very worrisome, because we're fighting insecurity, we're fighting cholera. And imagine fighting Ebola again, just a country, Nigeria. How do we want the people to really, really survive? And again, people need to understand that some of the symptoms of Ebola are just like malaria, except it gets very severe. So if you may just
getting severe when you start bleeding from the nose.
But sometimes it's better, to check yourself early, because a lot of people will be there just taking malaria drugs, thinking they have malaria. Meanwhile, it's Ebola. So I love the fact that, we're bringing this up. We're making sure that we fund the people that will adequately fight if we actually have an outbreak in Nigeria. God forbid, I pray that we don't. Anyway, at this point, we will take a breather now. And when we come back, Ibrahim will bring us all the headlines that have made it to the newspaper. We get to dissect it right here on the show. Don't go